Hello and welcome to Talk Ag to Me, the podcast dedicated to improving ag literacy around the globe. I'm your host, Brennan Black, and in today's episode, we're going to be discussing agriculture from the college perspective, some of the opportunities available, and what going to college can mean for future generations of agriculturalists. Here to talk about this topic with me, I have Dr. Waldner, and she's going to introduce herself for our audience here.
Very good. Well, thanks for having me. My name is Waldner, and I'm the provost at the Tulare campus of College of the Sequoias. And so that just means I'm responsible for this particular campus. But what's unique about this campus, in addition to having all of our general ed courses, we also have what we call an anchor program, which is both our agriculture division as well as our industry and technology division, which is career technical education kind of programs. So I oversee our agriculture division and serve as the dean over that. So I think that ties into the conversation that you want to have today.
Yeah, definitely.
That particular degree.
Yeah, for sure. So what can you tell us that you've noticed so far out of your years in working with the college agriculture experience that you've seen, so maybe like the impact it has on some of the students, some of the opportunities that are available, advantages to going to college for an ag degree rather than just going straight into the workforce?
Well, I've worked with students all over the country for the last, to give a little more about me, for the last 25 years. So I was at the University of Kentucky, where I worked at the College of Agriculture. That's originally where I'm from. And then Kansas State University. We met my husband there, and we moved around, but spent time at Oklahoma State University for about 10 years before we moved out here, where he's originally from. So in all of those, including worked at Reedley College as what we call a director of statewide kind of agriculture programs, and now here at College of the Sequoias for about 8-9 years. And so in all of that time, I just give you all of that. All of my work has been in agriculture education, recruiting, supporting, and having students find career areas. So to kind of get to your point, in all of those years, I think there is, of course, a student needs to choose what they want to do and what makes sense for them.
Right.
But what I would not want someone to do is eliminate agriculture because they didn't understand the diversity of what we have available to us. And certainly we need students that are interested in every aspect of agriculture. So you think about the number of employment just here in Tulare County. There may be businesses, and you think, well, I should major in business, and certainly that you can, but you could look at something like an agribusiness that gives you a perspective of a particular industry. So there is so many aspects of the world, the employment world, that is somehow connected in a support industry for agriculture, or where you need to know something about agriculture. So majoring in agriculture, in addition taking additional types of courses that might give you some other skills, are critical for both the industry, and I think it's opens up an opportunity maybe students don't understand, is that you could major in agriculture, you could choose a couple of different majors, you could take a couple of courses, but having that understanding of our industry is critical for the future of our industry.
Yeah,
so,
I definitely agree.
Yeah.
So you gave a little bit of background to your experience in this type of profession. What really brought you to where you are today as far as your interest in working in this type of field?
Well, for me, I mean, that's a tough question, and I think as you visit, and as I have counseled with students for years about their career plan and their career path, the more you have a goal and the direction you want to go, it's like anything, setting a goal, and then you know the path, you know what to do to get to that goal.
Yep.
On the other hand, life happens, and so sometimes the goal, you can't necessarily, it's not a straight path. You might have some zigzags. And so I would say my personal career path had lots of zigzags, and that's because I wanted to have a family and get married and those types of things. So for me, when I grew up on a dairy and tobacco farm in Kentucky, and I went to school and studied ag communications as to begin with. I worked at the time when we initially had the Kentucky Beef Cattle Association. The name has changed, and it's been many, many years ago, but that particular helped me understand it was when the beef checkoff, if you've ever heard of that, the beef checkoff was new, and so that gave me lots of experiences as an internship, an undergraduate experience, and said, I need to do more. In my case, I need to know more than just about the communication part. I have to have the knowledge base behind there. So I picked up a double major in animal science. I went on for a master's degree in more meat science, food science, and that kind of led me to Kansas, where I met my husband. My whole point is that's a real zigzaggy. I knew what I wanted to do was somehow in communications in the area of agriculture,
right? But
just due to life and spouse, I've been what I call a trailing spouse ever since then, and that got me back into a university situation when he was working on an advanced degree in agriculture, by the way, that allowed me to work in education within agriculture, and then that path has just been one I've been able to pursue ever since then. So I think what got me in that is just, again, communications, desire to let the world know that there's a lot of opportunities within agriculture, recruit students to that, advise and counsel students. Those were all things that appealed to me, and has allowed me to kind of stay in the area of agriculture, but also combine it with education. So that's kind of me personally, but I would say students in general are going to find their career path is zigzaggy depending on how life, how life plays out and what you have to do. So I'm just one example of being able to stay in the industry, get a variety of experiences, but I'm in the industry more from an education standpoint versus maybe in a different aspect of the industry.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. So you said that you've worked in a few different states. You kind of, you have experience with other states and how their programs work in terms of their college level agricultural programs. Do you notice any significant differences between the different state programs and how they're run?
So I worked at, like I said, 3 land grant institutions, and a land grant the land grant system. UC Davis is that here in California,
right,
and it has a mission of research, teaching, and extension. So each of the previous institutions I worked at were involved in research, teaching, and extension. Here in the community college at College of the Sequoias, however, and in the community college system, we are a 2-year college that gives you the first 2 years of experience as well as prepares you for the workforce. So there's some differences between the former institutions and this particular institution.
Right. I
think there's a lot of value in the institution. In California, we're the largest educational institution in the world. The community college system is. And so we have, oftentimes people think, the community college, I need to go off to the 4-year institution.
Right.
And I see, having been in both worlds, that there's a tremendous amount of opportunity, both financial for a student as well as experiences for a student. There's a lot of hands-on opportunities and things that you can get everywhere. But we do a lot of getting to do that in your first and second year while you're here at the same time while you do your general ed.
Yeah.
I think the similarities between the institutions is that there's just a commitment from those institutions that I've been in for educating students about agriculture. That's the commonality between all the institutions, and I don't think I try not to compete with the other institutions that are doing the same thing that we are. We're really we don't need that competition. We need to get as many students in our educational system that want to and are passionate about studying agriculture, regardless of where they decide to go.
Yeah, definitely. Have you found any, or do you have any advice, I would say, in getting students to look more towards the community college route? Because kind of like you were saying, a lot of students' knee-jerk reactions to go straight to the 4-year, and a lot of times that can kind of backfire on them. So do you have any ways to really encourage them?
Well, I will say this. I'm a I've always said I'm a 4-year university recovering snob because I went to the 4-year. In Kentucky there weren't 2-year opportunities. Then when I started working in Oklahoma, there were a number of 2-year institutions, community colleges, and I was recruiting for Oklahoma State going, well, why are you staying there versus coming here?
Right.
And when I really talked with those students, the advantages of the community college, and I talked to a few of those, but simply the cost is one advantage.
Right.
And a lot of students go, I don't care, parents are paying for it, right? But I think cost in considering that if you went for an advanced degree or trying to purchase other things, there's some advantages of staying locally. Here at the College of the Sequoias, a lot of opportunities for financial aid, scholarships, getting grants, those kinds of things that are sometimes more advantageous to the student than the 4-year institution. As well as we've just started a reimbursement program so a student could come here for totally free with the exception of fees and books. So there's a lot of advantages. So regardless of your economic status, you could come here and get reimbursement, and that's new both for the state of California and for the community college. So there's great opportunities to come here, but I think also our faculty, every institution, I wouldn't want someone to hear this from an institution elsewhere where my husband was a faculty member at Oklahoma State. So they do a great job as well, but I think that the perception that somehow you won't get the quality of education is wrong. My husband is a graduate of College of the Sequoias. He has a PhD. He says some of his best opportunities and experiences were right here at COS, both with his chemistries, biologies, so there's lots of rigor and opportunities. However, with a lot of our faculty here in agriculture, for you to get hands-on experience, connect with industry, and do that while you're here at home. I think the final advantage that I kind of thought about, if you want to come and live at home, networking and knowing those people and not going off, at least for your first 2 years, sometimes gives you an advantage as well because you've networked. And half the battle of getting employment and is kind of that network you create.
Definitely.
And so staying here where you have a Miss Cooper or a Mr. McKeith or a Mr. Aby or a Dr. Ferry Aby, any of those people, Mr. Fernandez, any of those people, to be able to say, yeah, I know someone. They went to Fresno, Chico, or somewhere else, or Cal Poly, but they're back here. Even I've done that, where someone picks up the phone and calls me as the dean, and I'm less connected to the students than those others, where I go, yeah, I know somebody, and I can call them. So I think that there's some advantages of looking at the community college there. I think my final point is people think that sometimes it's the community college, so it can't be as good because it's right in my backyard. And we think at COS, we're a first choice, not a second choice. We're a best choice and a first choice, and to think about us as just your first 2 years right here close to home. So
yeah, definitely. I think that coming from high school, one of the biggest misconceptions I've kind of realized is that a lot of people think that COS and just other community colleges in general, just like you're saying, just aren't as high quality until they get here and they realize there's so much available. I mean, I came here with, little to no knowledge on what was really available at COS. I was just planning on getting my general ed out of the way and then going straight to Fresno, but I got involved in the Ag Council, I got involved in the Ag Ambassadors and working on the school farm and getting business opportunities and networking and getting to show and just doing all these things that I was getting to do in high school, and then now I'm getting to advance and enhance my skills and everything that I've learned from high school I've gotten to do a lot better with it. It's something that a lot of people don't tend to realize is really going on. I've talked to my friends in the 4-year universities, and they don't even get those opportunities.
Correct.
And so it's something that I think a lot of people need to be a little bit more open to.
I think you hit on something, and I have a child that went straight to a 4-year, so I am kind of preaching go to the 2-year, and then I couldn't get my own kid to consider that. Different stories about that. But I see that some of you come in and get to do those leadership roles right off. Whereas what I've seen with her is she was turned down on a lot of things, even though she was aggressively trying those, because they're going, well, we really give that opportunity to juniors.
Right.
And I'm going, oh, dadgummit, she can't have those opportunities. So I think you've hit on something. Not that either way, I don't want to discourage anyone from going to school, whatever makes sense.
Definitely.
But to somehow imply that there aren't the opportunities here because it's the local community college. I just had the conversation with Miss Cooper, who is your Ag Student Council advisor, and she's headed, she and I both, at the 1st of April to a food safety conference over on the coast with some massive speakers, and she's already connected with those people that are going to, she's doing a tour for you actually in Kingsburg and do for the agribusiness club. So the connectivity that the faculty have here are no different than the faculty member at a 4-year, and in fact sometimes because they don't necessarily have a research appointment or something along those lines, their ability to get active and engaged with you are there. I just went this weekend to the Porterville, and you were there too,
yes,
to the Porterville Fair with a whole crew of students that were many of those interested in ag education. It was our livestock kind of show team, if you will. It was really a class, and they were at the Porterville Fair. So getting those opportunities to do that as a first-year student. And we were talking about career preparation for those that might think they want to be a teacher of agriculture one of these days. Having that opportunity to take that class or to do those things as a freshman to help them go, oh, this is cool, I want to do more of this, or to say, ooh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that again. But having the opportunity to get engaged in your major pretty quickly right off the bat, I think has a lot of advantages.
Yeah, definitely. I think, another one of the things that you just reminded me of, when going into a community college, it's so like you were saying, you get a lot of opportunities as a freshman or sophomore that you probably wouldn't have gotten if you went straight to a 4-year, and it kind of helps you ease into that, that area you're going to be studying, and it really helps you understand whether or not you're going to like it. I mean, right now, this is my first year at COS. I'm taking an ag education class that I probably wouldn't be able to take until probably my junior year at Fresno State if I was going through my ag education major normally. And there's a lot of opportunities like that I probably would have, and even if I would have been able to take them there, I probably would have gotten overwhelmed just because there's so much going on. I'm not home, and there's so many new people, and it just kind of throws me off my balance. Coming to somewhere like COS or Reedley or another community college, they kind of do a very good job of easing you. They're kind of a transitionary stage between high school and college to kind of get you, okay, here's what you're going to do, and here's where you're probably going to need to put in the work to get to this point, and it kind of helps you get to that point before you have to get just thrown into the fire. Yeah,
totally agree. And I think it's a combination. Sometimes we get the rap that you can't get the classes you need, and sometimes it's it could be, sometimes it would be our fault, I think, but sometimes it is students trying to figure out what they want to do. So they may take a few additional courses to allow them to explore while they're doing their general ed, and you might go, well, what difference does it make? Well, I can tell you as a parent that is paying for out-of-state tuition, I'm going to my child, you better figure it out, because we don't have extra years to figure it out. Not that I want my students here to go a different direction and take a bunch of different courses that don't count, but sometimes you are exploring just a little bit. I mean, you have to have that goal and that target, or you could be here forever. Hopefully not. Hopefully no more than 4 semesters, maybe that 5th semester here. So kind of 2 years, 2.5 years. But that exploration and making sure you're making those decisions on the dime, where you're not paying for housing and more expensive tuition, there's some advantages to that.
Definitely.
We sound like old people. you're saying it too. I'm an old person, but you're very logical.
So moving into a bit of the just overall college, some of the 4-year college scene, since we've been talking about community college quite a bit, I've noticed that there's a bit of a dramatic shift towards, the thing for today is for everyone to go to college. It used to be everyone goes straight into the workforce, and that's still kind of the case for some of the ag kids. As soon as they get out of high school, they start working on their family farm, or they go find a dairy to work on. Have you noticed a little bit of a surge in kind of the amount of kids going into like the ag majors in college lately?
So I think we've had steady steady enrollment in agriculture across the country that I've been in. We haven't had a sharp decline. I think it's an interesting question because I think the difference is than it was even 20 years ago is so there's fewer of us in agriculture that are coming directly from a farm background, even in a strong agriculture area like Tulare, where you have your entire income from your parents or from your family are coming from the farm. Right. So there's just fewer of those traditional farm families out there in general. I mean, fewer. It takes 2%, or I think the number is even less. 2% of the population is feeding the world, and then a lot of us are involved in what I might think of allied industries of agriculture that are supporting the production agriculture part.
Definitely.
And so I think the interesting thing for colleges of agriculture, for divisions of agriculture, colleges that have divisions of agriculture like us here at College of the Sequoias, is trying to work with the feeder programs like the high school agriculture education programs that also, have part of their mission as the FFA organization, and recruiting those students. And really, so I think in my years that when I look at the manufacturing industry that is struggling to recruit students and we struggle in those areas because we've lost some of those areas in CTE in the high school area.
Right.
Agriculture is still doing that in our welding and some of our manufacturing is really coming through our agricultural education programs. So trying to get to your question, but I think there is a steady supply of students, but we know we need more students that are interested in the allied industry. So there's certainly farming is part of what our students can go back, and particularly if you have a home farm. But I think of agriculture like a tree, and so the foundation, the roots, and the trunk is the production agriculture, which really has us, gives us the solid foundation from which we're building, right? That's how we feed the world and clothe the world and all of those things with that foundation. But it requires all the branches, right, to do the photosynthesis to produce the leaves for the tree to survive. So all those different branches are the things that are the allied industries that go back and support the industry. My husband is a great example. We're not in production agriculture. He's not. He is, but he doesn't own a farm, right? He's a dairy nutritionist that is an allied industry that consults and helps 20 or 25 or however many dairies that he works with on a daily basis. So there's all of those branches and those allied kind of industries that we're recruiting students. So I think we continue to see students that understand that. I credit a lot of that to our great high school agriculture education programs, our California associations that support that, our nationwide programs that support that. Because when you look at other industries, because they don't have maybe those programs at the high school level, and you haven't built a foundation for students to understand what the industry is about, it's harder to recruit them into different areas. So I don't know if I completely answered your question.
No, you did.
But I think,
definitely.
We need students that are doing both. So from a community college standpoint, spending the first 2 years, even in a certificate program that doesn't require a 4-year degree. Not everybody needs to go to college. Not every career area requires you to go to college, but I guarantee every career area requires you to think. So hopefully, when you're taking classes, you're taking classes that are practical and applied in our certificate programs, but also teaching you how to think, work with others, and those kinds of things. And then we do have degree programs that will require a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD. You're probably not going to work at a lending agency without a bachelor's degree and some exposure to an industry or to the business world. So it takes both to support all those branches, those allied industries that ultimately are built based on the solid foundation of the 2% of the population that actually does farm.
Right. Yeah,
I don't know
exactly.
if I'm making sense.
No, you did, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. So you actually answered a little bit of another question I was going to ask you. I was going to go along the lines of maybe like, would it be fair to say that you would recommend students pursuing a career in agriculture, whether it's one of those foundational production agriculture careers or one of the allied careers like you mentioned? Would you encourage them to go, or would you, let me see, would you support them going more towards the college route, even if they don't necessarily need the degree for that profession, just to learn more about it? Or would you say that, you know, it's something that it's, you know, worth pursuing, or something that you know?
That's probably really philosophical, and you could ask 10 people and they'd each probably have an opinion on that.
Right.
I watch the social media and blog posts and the various things, and you'll philosophically get people to say, you don't need a dang degree in order to do this, and well, you can't possibly do that without a degree, and it's not a black or white answer. I think it really is dependent on the student, the individual, the experiences they can have, and I think you can find success. I have mother and father. I'm a first generation college kid, so not a kid anymore, but a first generation college. So is my husband, and both had very successful parents in the farming world, in our respective areas, that didn't have any advanced degrees, but and I've learned a tremendous amount from them. At the same time, I've worked with individuals that with PhDs and are excellent in their areas. I don't think we want to have a molecular biologist without an advanced degree that is doing some of the genetic work and those kinds of things that are very fruitful for the industry, and has created a lot of the opportunities that we have that sometimes are controversial. So I think it takes both. So I think it depends for me, having spent years career counseling students. It really depends on what you just said. What is your goal? What do you want to do? And if you're not sure about that, I mean, I met with a young man not too long ago here, and his interest was returning back to the home dairy, and he was here to take some of our dairy science certificate program, and that's all he wanted to do. But as we sat and discussed, and the value of whether he should come here, whether he should take that certificate program, we really talked about the dairy industry and what he was going to do on his family dairy farm. And we talked about the crop side of the world, the dairies. I said, do you like the cows? Do you like the farming part? Because those are vastly different depending on how big your operation is. I talked about, you might want to take the dairy classes, but you might, in his case, want to come and take some of our irrigation-based classes, because guess what? Feeding those cows, the biggest expense is feeding those cows, is the commodities that go into that. So how do you add value back to your farm? So the conversation there for him, to me, was not, if you get a bachelor's degree, that's going to somehow be different for you in your farm experience. Or if you don't get a bachelor's or associate degree or certificate. It's more about, what are you trying to do? How are you trying to add value? And what makes sense for you to learn? I don't think there's ever a disadvantage of going on and having, doing a degree and getting the experiences that we talked about, of how to work with others, how to think differently, right? Sometimes we go off to college and we think differently than our parents do, and we find out sometimes we were flawed in our thinking, and sometimes we find that, hey, we bring value back to the family operation because we think differently about things. So there's values in both ways, and so I think it's a fruitless article. It's not a fruitful conversation to way that one is better than the other. They both have value, just depending on your individual situation. How's about that for a political avoidance of your actual question?
No, that was definitely a fair answer. I did ask you a little bit of a curveball question just because I wanted to see how, coming from a college profession, I assumed you'd go more in the, they should go to college route.
But they have to.
Right.
I think it just, and that would be disingenuous for me. I think I've seen people with success in both areas. My favorite is I worked at the University of Kentucky, and everybody wanted to come there to do something horse related. And I would go, oh my goodness, there's only so many jobs in the horse industry, and do you want to muck stalls?
Yeah.
But how dare me ever to tell a student that what they desire and what their goal is and what they want to do, it's my job to give them some reality check about can they do what they want to do, like invest in a horse operation, how are you going to get those funds and those kinds of things. But it's never my job to say you can't do that, because I guarantee if I said that, and I've been in a situation where maybe I've been a little thinking, well, you'll never do that, and they've proved me wrong. So how dare me say that you couldn't do what you want to do. I think there's value in education, there's value in real world experience, and you've got to be smart enough to know how to combine those two. But certainly we have a lot of advantages of thinking and practical applied application here at the community college in the ag program.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, one of the things I've always said about college, I mean, there are certain professions you have to go in for a degree, obviously. Nobody's going to hire you if you don't. But for especially the production agriculture side and some of the other agricultural professions that you don't need a degree for, I've always personally found a lot more benefit in actually the education part of college. I know a lot of people that just go to college to get their degree, and very few go to actually learn anything. And I've always kind of had an issue with that, which maybe that's just me, but I've always enjoyed the learning part of it more, and like you were saying, learning how to think in a different way, and looking at different perspectives of the same equation, and taking in different concepts and different ideas from different professors and different students, and kind of combining them all and taking them back home to, like you're saying, the family farm is saying, hey, this is what I learned. It might not be your way of doing it, and yeah, there might be kinks in the problem, but we can try this and see if it works, kind of thing. And I've always valued the education of it more than just getting the degree or having to go through all the years.
But I think the key that from what you said is coming here to learn, not coming here to jump through a hoop.
Right.
So now I've said this for my entire career. It's okay that you don't know what you want to do with the rest of your life, but it's no excuse. You have no excuse. That's your job when you're here, is to figure that out. And so if a student is just jumping through hoops to somehow get a piece of paper at the end, they're not, and they didn't learn anything along the way, but they made decent grades, but didn't apply and try to see how all those concepts work together, then yes, your degree might not be worth as much as what you said, where you try to apply and figure it out. And not everything will be perfect, and you won't agree with everything every professor said, but maybe it makes your head think differently for the next time. So there's real advantages of that if you want to learn. Oh
yeah, definitely. And even if you don't completely agree with everything your professor says, that can be a very advantageous in a lot of ways, because it makes you rethink your position and really question, okay, do they have a point to what they're saying, or do I need to really think about this and kind of reevaluate what my original belief was? And kind of like you're saying, it does very little good to someone to just jump through hoops and get a piece of paper if they don't have the competence and the knowledge and the experience behind them to put it to use. And I've that's the conversation I've had with a bunch of people, is just
and that's dependent on you.
Right, exactly.
We can open many doors. Our faculty member can offer many opportunities, but if you won't take it, if you won't do that, or do that extracurricular, or do those take advantage of those leadership opportunities, then you won't grow as much. So it's a two-way street.
Yeah, definitely. I'd agree. Well, I think those are all the questions I had. I'm not sure if you had any other additional comments you wanted to add on there. I mean,
no, I think it's your podcast, what are we calling it? Podcast?
Yeah, Talk Ag to Me.
Talk Ag to Me is, I think it's awesome. I appreciate the opportunity to get to tell you a little bit about agriculture in general from an education standpoint. If I didn't emphasize it enough, I think we do have opportunities in this industry for students who want to come. We have people asking for opportunities, vacancies, openings for those students, like you said, that kind of want to learn, that do want to learn. We have 6-7 different areas of study here just at College of the Sequoias. A couple of the newer ones are irrigation technology, and I'm kind of pushing that because we know we have employers out there looking at that, but that's less popular than some other areas.
Right.
But particularly here in the valley, with our issues in water, that's certainly a positive area that I'd want to share with your listeners and
Yeah.
people that are thinking about that. Food safety is another one. We just have a certificate in that. And food safety is a huge issue in California and beyond,
Oh, yeah,
with the
definitely.
Food Safety Modernization Act and things that are going on. And we at first think, what does that have to do with agriculture? Well, we produce the food.
Right.
And it used to be that it was only in the processing facilities that some of that, but it really, that legislation has pushed it all the way back to agriculture,
Right.
from the farm, from the field, all the
Right.
way in. And so our students have an opportunity to be exposed to that, and I think that's very unique to COS, of the way we've taken that. So I'm proud of COS and College of the Sequoias Tulare campus, and just appreciate the opportunity to get to share that with your listeners.
Yeah, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about what's available here at the Tulare campus and in the college realm for agricultural students and those pursuing ag career, just in general. I mean, I know we could go on for hours about all the
Sure.
possible opportunities available here, and I'm definitely considering doing follow-up episodes on some of the different departments available at COS and some of the different opportunities available in the college realm, such as work experience opportunities and some of the certifications you were talking about, the food safety course and some of that kind of stuff. But I just know it's going to take
Sure.
way longer than we had time for today. So I just kind of wanted to get a pretty good overview as to college agriculture, the community college realm, your role in this, your opinions on a bunch of different things, and you definitely delivered on what I was looking for. So
Well, thank you so much.
yeah, no, I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's all I have
Okay.
for this episode. So I'd like to thank all of our audience so much for listening and tuning in. And if you have any recommendations, anything you want to hear about as far as the opportunities available in the college realm goes, if you have any questions for Dr. Waldner here, I can be happy to ask her once I get those. And if you have anything else you want to have an episode on, you want me to cover, or specifically at the campus, I can be happy to do that.
Perfect.
So yeah, that's all I have. So thank you so much for listening, and don't forget, if you ate today, thank a farmer.